Underdog Daily, Badge Bros, double dip, twin killing, second show of the day. Covered the baseball stuff this morning, and then this one's for the puck guys. We got to throw the hashtag puck guys a bone every now and then. They're out here grinding every single night on the platform. So when we're about to turn the calendar over to playoff hockey, we got to get the people excited, get in these Zamboni streets, and no better way to do so than calling on the manifesto creator in Matt Moody here and his partner on the Morningscape pod, DJ Mitchell, the inaugural winner, dare I say, inaugural champion in the best puck streets there. Maybe appropriately dressed there, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to come out. You got to be ready to get out there, get the people going, get the party started. I believe no one can see me. You can't see me. It's my time is now. They try to take down the champ. The only way they can possibly do it is they have to lobby against the state of New York to get me out of the streets. It don't matter. The champ is here. The champ is staying. He's not going anywhere. So you're gonna have to come and take this from me this time. MSNC Count and all the others. Come take it. Come try to take it. You can't see me. My time is now.
Oh, I love it, man. You guys are kings of the bits around here. One time came on with the Belichick bit. That was maybe 2 or 3 shows ago when we had this one last time. But I respect it, man. I respect it. Dare we say hustle, loyalty, respect.
Hustle, loyalty, respect. I mean, Matt did have the idea of dipping our head in a bowl of water and rubbing bananas on our face, which would have worked, but I had no Saratoga water at my house, unfortunately.
And
so.
Easy knocked it out of the park earlier, so kind of lost that one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I missed. I was absolutely cooking through work today, racing home, putting on my Sunday best is what I'd call it, to get ready to get it all going. I can't explain why I own this. If anyone needs it, my friend's doing a bachelor party, and he's like, "Let's do a theme for the brewery bus tour."
Yeah,
and then he's like, "What about WWE?" And I was like,
"That's
say no
fun.
More.
Yeah,
say
that's
no
fun.
More."
Yeah,
so that's coming up in a couple months.
Love it. I got a Cody Rhodes shirt in the closet there too. Guys, let's talk about it. Let's talk about I guess the easiest place to start right now. I got to ask you guys about how the grind in the daily streets has been going and how the Best Puck Classic stuff has been going. I unfortunately have been eliminated. I had 22 entries advanced, 5 of them there, and we don't have one in the finals. Our last one died in the semifinals there to Ottawa Rob. I think Ottawa Poker Rob or something like that took me down. But apparently he's been taking a lot of people down along the way. We got any bullets left live in the Best Puck Finals, guys?
No. Easy answer. Absolutely not. I was dead last round, dead this round. DJ somehow surviving the state of New York. What are you looking like?
I'll tell you what, Jack. I got 3 teams left. I got 3 bullets.
That's
3
good.
Hustle teams left. Do they all have Thomas Hertl, who's going to miss probably the entirety of the final? Sure. Does one of them have Leon Draisaitl? That's probably going to miss at least the first week. Probably. Does one of them even have Jack Hughes somehow, who's been out and is gone for the rest of the year? Yeah, but I have one team I believe in, and it only takes one team. Everyone knows that one team can win it all. I have confidence. It was off to a good start with Gunther goal last night. I believe it had Boldy as well, who had a lot of points but didn't actually score. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm here to win it all and keep my belt no matter what, no matter if my teams all suck in the finals. But I have 3. And the thing about this year was getting $1,500 for 3 teams making it to the finals is what I put in. So I'm already up money.
There you go. Perfect. And that is that hat tip to the structure there this year?
Yeah. No, I think it's a lot better. I mean, I think that comparatively to the NBA, where it really is probably all about the regular season and everything else is nothing, in my opinion, and football where it gets a little bit more weighted. I think hockey is, getting to the final is really impressive. Winning the final, you probably lose a lot of the actual skill at that point, but I do think the best teams will often advance. The best teams should continue to advance. So I would rather the payout this way. I think it's the best structure they've made for, I'm not going to say any tournament. I don't play them all, but I think for hockey, It's the best payout structure.
Right on. Yeah, no, that's great feedback. Love to hear it. Wish my guy Moods had a little more success there, but we push on and we move on to the Zamboni streets here And I think the best place to start is what you sent me this morning and what I have pinned in the chat for everybody and in the link in the description below if you happen to be watching this after the fact. And that is the manifesto. And Matt, you've written a manifesto for Best Puck in general, and now you've kind of pivoted that to be Zamboni specific. And you had some really interesting findings. I read through it all this morning here. In particular, the stacking question. So I don't know, just maybe give us a overarching kind of synopsis and what your findings were.
Yeah, so obviously hat tip to Mike Leone, who was, the original Best Ball Mania manifesto guy. I took that for Best Puck. I'm like, you know what? He perfected it. I'm just going to try and recreate what he did for Best Puck. And, I did with some amount of success. And then when it came Zamboni time, we got the data from Numi. Shout out to Numi. And I was like, all right, well, let me dust off this code and run. And then I realized nothing is applicable between the regular season and the playoffs. And I've listed out a bunch of reasons why. It's very similar, though, for football and for baseball and basketball, where basically there's only two teams in the final where all the money is, versus in the regular season, it's every team is potentially on the table. So I went into the lab. I basically ran playoff sim and then turned that into player outcomes dependent on the length of each series, like the player talent level. It's janky. Don't get me wrong. I'm not winning money by running 2024-25 through this thing and saying, oh, just give me the best teams. But I think it was good enough to get me to a point where I could just test all the teams from last year's Zamboni contest and see what worked. And so for that, I offered to the listeners and the viewers of this program an apology, because last year I came on this show and I was pretty adamant that because only 5 players are on the top power play and that just all the variants of hockey, taking the 4 best players on a team and then another 4 players from another team, and then, getting some mini stacks in there felt like the right way to go. The data shows that is not true at all. So I highly encourage you to check out the full thing. But if you take one thing away from the Zamboni manifesto, it's that you want to stack a full team, meaning you want 6 players who can score from a single NHL team. And so there's many ways you can do that. The structure is pretty easy outside of maybe 2 or 3 teams to get like competitive teams of 6. But yeah, it was a really interesting discovery. There's other minor things in there that we can touch on as we go. But that was sort of like the high level takeaway that I found. And honestly, I'm wondering if people in other sports have come to similar conclusions, such as I know the dance is going on right now, or whatever the basketball version is.
The dance. Yep.
Yeah. And so like, is that the similar meta? I have no idea because, I'm just a hockey bro over here.
No, I respect it, man. Yeah, it's interesting because the whole onslaught, 6-6 in 12-round drafts and stuff like that was definitely baseball alpha for a long time, where it was like, we know that everyone who's hitting in the 6 hole is going to get as many at bats as the guy hitting in the 6 hole on another team or whatever. It's better to just have a contrarian stacked on piece of that because that could be the guy who goes off in the finals, right? Where that gets a little different, as you allude to with basketball and hockey, is the playing time isn't created equal. Whereas like baseball, we know these players are going to get those at bats regardless of how good they are. In terms of basketball, it's like, well, some of these auxiliary 6 players you're going to be adding in the last round might only play 12, 13 minutes a night and never factor into your scoring. Or in hockey terms, might only play 8 to 10 minutes with a PK role and be more of like a role player. Is that worth tacking on? So it is surprising to find that, oh yeah, that's worth having instead of having quote unquote push through pieces like a stud on a 8 seed instead.
And I think anecdotally, we see this come through in some years. Obviously some years this doesn't happen, but some years we make it to the finals of the Zamboni, and teams that coming off a series that went 7 games, they flood the final, even if that team ultimately lost. So I think that's sort of like the third factor. It's just that series length is so important that all this to talk about, getting the best player, blah, blah, blah. it's like if you get a player on a team who plays a bunch of games and wins, you're probably getting a bunch of fantasy points for it. So, it's just one set of 100 sims. Like maybe the next set of 100, it completely changes. In all honesty, I don't think that'll be the case. But like I did find that super revelatory, and it's pretty conclusive data wise. There's really no so unless I screwed something up royally, or like that is actually the way to play best puck here. So
Okay.
yeah, and anyway, though, I certainly an interesting endeavor for sure. It took me many, many nights of yelling at Chat GPT to give me correct code and whatnot. So can't say it was a waste, even if I break it like I did the Best Puck Classic this year.
No, man, we respect it. Love the takeaways from it. I did find really interesting there that in your 100 simulations and your kind of like ROI stuff that you did in terms of like players, like actual players on the site, that it did find that Count MC, who ended up winning, actually won in the simulations as well, with two teams that weren't even in the finals of the Stanley Cup there as well. So that's very cool just to know that, oh yeah, the guy who was creating the most plus EV rosters actually did win.
Yeah, and it helps because I know he's a sharp drafter, and I know he's in both our discords, like just always giving good takes and good sets of data accumulation and whatnot. So like, it was nice to see like, hey, someone who knows what he's doing fares well in my stuff too. So that felt good as sort of like a hey, I didn't royally screw everything up.
DJ, anything else you would like to add? Just kind of like macro with some of the data that Matt went through, or some of your own findings this off season that's kind of differed between last year and this?
I'll probably just get even bigger picture in general. I feel like a lot of our takeaways from the previous year were kind of off the genesis of a very unchalky final and a very unchalky playoffs for the NHL, which kind of had become the status quo, that things didn't go as planned. Many teams were being upset every year. I mean, we went into 2 years ago with the Boston Bruins. We're never losing to Florida. If you asked 100 hockey fans, is that going to happen? 99 of them would have said no, and one of them would have been living in Florida, right? And it's like, what happened? Florida made a god run to the Stanley Cup final and loses, but a completely different scenario than what we saw last year, where Florida was back expectedly against Edmonton, who was probably the chalkiest pick possible to make the Cup final. And you get this completely different scenario where the ancillary pieces, in large part, the biggest one, Evan Rodriguez, went insano mode in the finals, which took over a roster spot from a lot of people would have assumed from Sam Reinhart, or I think he was better than anybody in Florida in the finals, maybe fantasy point wise, or at least right up there. So I would say that, like, don't get into this like, well, it obviously is going to be a chalk build, so I have to overstack these chalk teams. Like, know that there's other things that have happened in the past, and that if you draft a little bit different, it's okay. Like, what can win last year, what would have won last year, is not like what should have won last year. Sorry, like you said, didn't win. The guy won because he's a smart drafter. Like, using the tools around what is a good way to build, and then getting into each draft and then funneling in those theories is how you're going to be successful and end up actually taking this down and taking this guy back from my clutches, which I should not have, because it should be right over to Count MC.
I love it. Guys, I gotta ask, like, kind of like macro landscape of the NHL right now, because there are a lot of teams battling for wild card positions right now, which makes drafting these contests kind of hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know what backstack teams I should be looking at if we want to get into like the nitty gritties and the takes, which we will in a second there. But just like macro landscape, you're talking about we have a chalk final last year. What are we forecasting this year? Because we have two teams at the top of the East and the West there that at the outset of the season, I don't think anyone would have put them up there, right? Like, so how does that factor into our mindset pushing into the playoffs here with, Washington and Winnipeg atop either conference?
I guess we were maybe a little bit higher on both of them than some, but definitely not this high. So I'm not gonna pat ourselves too hard. I feel like we were like, Washington could be a little bit dangerous. I like the over on points at like 82.5 or whatever. Okay. And they go, as good as they can. Like, I think at the end of the day, like you look at these odds, and the number one right now on Money Puck is 21.3%. to win the cup, and that's Winnipeg, which you might be saying I don't even really think that's all that accurate. You go to the sports books, they have Dallas as number 1 to win the cup. So you kind of can look through these models and realize that like, well, Dallas has Colorado in round 1, almost that seems like it's almost a more like, I think it is just way more interesting than I ever thought it would be, as far as all of the top end teams being just a complete, for lack of a better word, cluster F. I don't want to swear. I know this is a family channel.
You could do as you see fit, man. Don't you worry.
So like, I think from the top end, like any lane you get into, you can stay in. And if you're going into one of these lanes, we already are finding that you should go all the way into that lane. Don't merge in and out, stay in it. So Matt, I will stop there and let you talk about the top end if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think so. The playoff picture is a little murky for that second wild card spot. I mean, you're showing it here. Like, I think the point, though, to keep in mind is that means that basically 14 spots right now are almost set in stone. It'd be really difficult for me to forecast Minnesota or Ottawa here missing the playoffs entirely. And as you can see, they're both above 90%. From there, you're sort of like, okay, well, do St. Louis, Montreal, you scroll down, you get the Calgary, the Rangers, whoever, do they really matter? Mm-hmm. And that's where the number 1 team in each conference, like you said, Washington and Winnipeg, they are some of the lower odds to win the Stanley Cup. Like basically the sports books are not giving them much credit for being, truly elite teams. They just had elite regular seasons. And so what that means is that whoever makes the playoffs as the 8th seed in each conference is going to have an easier path than, I think than it might otherwise feel like, based on just, they're the number 1 team in the conference. So like, it is difficult to draft those teams specifically. And I think it will be worthwhile to take some shares of the teams that get hot and make that 8th seed, in the last week of the contest drafts. But for right now, we have a pretty good sense of, Dallas is going to play Colorado in round 1. We feel pretty good that Carolina and New Jersey are going to play each other in round 1. I mean, even like New York, or not New York, Toronto and Tampa are likely to play each other. Maybe a bit less certain, as are Edmonton and Los Angeles. So like, you can kind of start building out your brackets, and it's going to work out nicely, I think, even right now. But yeah, there is that sort of like that final shoes left to drop where you could get, a St. Louis or a Montreal or something like that with some pretty insane value, once we know they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. I do think it's kind of, I mean, you articulated it perfectly with like kind of like the 1 seeds overachieving and not having the highest like finals odds here. Whereas like the biggest takeaway for me from hockey to basketball is like these 8 seeds, whoever gets in does have a real legit shot to potentially upset and move around a bracket. Whereas like whoever wins the play-in in the NBA, it's like, see you later, 4 games versus the Celtics, 4 games versus the Cavs, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just happened 2 years ago. And I really feel like if you're not a hockey fan and you weren't around for that Florida upset over Boston, it was not just like Florida squeaked in over the Buffalo freaking Sabres by a point. That's how low they were, right? We're not talking about a team that was like, they were a little bit surprising to not maybe be as good as people thought against the Boston team that just set the NHL record for the most points in NHL history. And it wasn't even like really all that in question that they were going to do that. I mean, this year we're talking about 2 teams that if you would have asked, again, 100 hockey fans, is Washington going to make the playoffs? Like 90 of them would have said no. 5 of them would have been Matt, somehow getting in there 5 times saying maybe. And then 5 of them would have been in the DC area and they would have been wearing their Tom Wilson jersey and tried to fight you. And then Winnipeg would have been more 50-50. Like I'm always a, goaltending can fix everything. And I don't think this team's that bad. So, I mean, last year that was my preseason cup pick. I didn't have him again, but I'm an idiot. So I didn't have him again, but like, again, this is now looking today. Everyone's like, oh, these teams are just destined. Right? Destiny has come true. When they're going to be playing against some really good teams. I do think that the teams that slip in that final spot that are going to take on Winnipeg and Washington are a decent clip weaker than the other 2 wildcard teams that are getting in, which is certainly going to change brackets. You're going to have to look at how the brackets are going to fill. The wildcard teams are going to, the first wildcard is going to go against the second best team, if you will. So Washington is almost definitely going to take on Montreal at this point. Montreal is the most likely, let's just say in this example. And then Florida is going to take on Ottawa at this point, it would look like. Although the Chuck brother reunion, like I definitely would keep that in mind a bit. It's not set in stone, but like Minnesota is incredibly likely to take the wild card one. And Winnipeg is a pretty huge margin above, so that they would not go to the Central where they were kind of projected. They go to the Pacific. So again, like things to keep in mind when you're building and drafting as well. Definitely have this up that you have on screen, but I always have the standings on my phone. Make sure you're kind of seeing where that path would lead to.
Okay, cool. So maybe let's jump on over to ADP for a hot second here and maybe talk about some of those teams that do pair or don't pair. Actually, let's take one step back right now. Are we married to the notion of doing 6 and 6s right now?
So I have a chart in the manifesto that sort of looks at each stack by stack type, and 6 stacks are certainly the best way to go. 6 6s aren't necessarily though the best of that bunch. They obviously can win. It makes perfect sense on how they can win. The 2 teams that you draft make it at least to the conference finals and probably make the Stanley Cup, depending on how rarely drafted those teams are. But I sort of think of it as like I want to get a 6 stack and then just fill in around it. That looks like it has the best win rates. You're showing it here in blue versus pretty low attempt rates in red. That's basically red is how often they're drafted and blue is how often they win. And so
that's quite winning the disparity.
And so it's just one piece of the puzzle. Obviously, you don't need to win to have a successful portfolio, but that felt like the cleanest way to say, hey, look at 6 stacks. You see the 6-6 on the end. The 6-4-2s have a better rate. So those are sort of what I'm building in more so. But I plan to get a little heavier into drafting, these final couple weeks, and I have been because I only have I think 6 or 7 drafts done at the moment because I spent a month writing this building the sim really, and then I spent a couple of days writing this up. But it's hard because when you do all this writing, it's like, well, shit, now I don't want to spend another 100 hours drafting a bunch of these teams. So
the last year's winner was 6-3-3. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think that it was maybe it was kind of one of those drafts where probably it was like you're building this Western Conference final, this Dallas Edmonton team. He had he had a pretty good Edmonton team going. He got Miro and Robertson to go along with it, and just maybe some Florida fell on the line. Like, I don't know if it was a plan or not. Like, I don't know if you're ever kind of planning that in advance, but going, Erod, Bennett, and honestly, what happened is, now that I really actually put my brain on, he took Bobrovsky first, probably. And then Florida got nuked and said, well, I can't completely abandon him with this goalie. Like, I just got to go 2 goalies here, and ends up going with Bennett and Erod. Erod wins you everything at the end of the day, because like I said, this cup final was ridiculous. So I think the 6-3-3 and anything around that is again kind of where I would go if my state allowed me to draft, but my state has decided I was too powerful. What are you going to do? I don't know. Again, I don't know who lobbied against me being able to draft, but I have my suspicions. Regardless, I think it's like what won last year, in my opinion, was truly a Western Conference build that just squeaked enough Florida through that got it done. And Florida won the cup, and that wasn't even the team, that really got there, right? Like it's always going to be weird, but I think that was the one thing last year that we were the most right about, was building a Western Conference or an Eastern Conference final was actually probably smarter than people thought, because it kind of forced you to overstack one team probably. And we kind of indirectly got there on some of our builds, not all of them, of course. But I do think that's totally fine to do.
Okay. Yeah, no, really well put there. I got some other just kind of like macros here for you guys. You very astutely point out in the manifesto there the value of basically the shifting value of centers relative to Best Puck Classic. Just in terms of, of wings relative to that, because of the 2 flex spots opposed to 1 and 2 wingers kind of scenario there, where we harp so heavily on preaching wings early in the other contests. And then the other one that I want to hit on is just like in terms of allocating draft capital associated with like goalies, people use it as like a benchmark to starting their stack, as you alluded to with the Bobrovsky pick potentially there. How do you guys envision goaltending relative to the stacks in which we're setting up? Like if I'm going with, trying to build out an onslaught stack of a team, is it like completely insane to do it without the goalie?
It's a little insane to do it without the
Okay.
goalie. Like it's really hard to imagine having a zero in net, basically. So if somehow you get 6 skaters from one team and then you try to get, a goalie, 2 goalies from the other conference, basically, like, yeah, it can work. I kind of feel like in these drafts, ADP is kind of made up. So like I would much rather just like reach for a goalie than miss out, I can get, a slightly better roster player by, pushing the goalie around. Like I don't think there's any value to that. I don't have empirical evidence though, for or against it. But definitely do not be drafting more than 2 goalies. Like whether you take 1 or 2 is sort of, I prefer taking 2 personally. It just feels safer. But having the one goalie did, yeah. So like when you just think of expected value, rakes included. So not everything can be positive. So just as long as you don't take more than 2, you're fine. But yeah, it's something that I don't really know the answer to, but 2 feels like the right answer.
Okay, cool. And then the question to address, splitting up the flex position and how we should be allocating roster. Like we're talking in terms of stack numbers before with the 6s and the 3-3s and that sort of thing. Where are we allocating those amongst positions? What's the desirable position build? And, what are the confines we should stay within?
Forwards tend to win fantasy contests. Like you said, having 2 flexes means that you don't need to worry about wing drying up like you do in the regular season Best Puck Classic. So for defense, you probably just want 2. So if you're thinking of it positionally, 2 defensemen, 2 goalies, hopefully they correlate, but as long as one of them correlate, that's probably fine. And then you just stack, 8 forwards around that nucleus, and hopefully you get a team stack in there, of course. The data shows that the 5 and 6 wing teams were stronger. I think that's just more a reflection of the fact that based on, I was looking at only drafted teams, the teams that drafted 5 or 6 wings were probably super stacking these teams because there's only 4 centers per team, just thinking through the logistics of it. If you got up to 6 skaters for a team, you probably had a bunch of wings from that team because there's 8 of them. So like that, I think that's all that's saying. But definitely prioritize forwards over defensemen.
Yeah, I think what led to that more than anything is McDavid nuked by such an unbelievable margin that you probably didn't draft a lot of centers because you took McDavid so early. And that may have led to,
remember, DJ, these are Sims, not what happened last year. So.
Oh, yeah. I tend to agree, 2 defensemen, and then you can kind of scatter it. I don't think you need to be more draft capital based at that point than you are. Like that's my point, though. I guess in general, whether it's or not that you want to agree with it, is that if you have drafted 2 centers early, if you went McDavid, Eichel, for example, then you're going to add more. And I think that was pretty popular amongst the better drafters to really level up at center. That's been the answer.
And to support DJ's point, though, the general principle that centers tend to be better fantasy players is definitely true. That for every Nikita Kucherov, there's 3 or 4, McKinnons, McDavids, Draisaitl's. So like that could be actually coming through in the Sims as well. But just wanted to make it clear that we're not just talking about what happened last year.
Sure. Yeah.
I think people that allocated more draft capital to center early spread a lot more out through the wings and found success through a number of different correlated outlets. That was the way to success. And then defense, 2, I would say 3 can work, but like that's in scenarios where you really didn't allocate anything until very late. Then you're going to go 3 and pray that one of them is just on the cup winning team and is involved.
Okay. Okay, let's talk a couple more questions. These are kind of like selfishly for me because I'm trying to like catch my bearings from a fantasy angle. Like obviously puck lover and watch puck, but like I'm doing a little catch up work on like the actual, fantasy side of things right now. In basketball, we talk about like the disparity in the top scorers juxtaposed to the bottom ones and how, a push through piece is like more important in some of these contests. When I look at the leaders in terms of scoring, this is some of the most disparity I have seen in a long time in hockey, from the top to even like 8, 9, 10 in terms of guys who are scorers. And some of these upper echelon guys, they're all kind of in like locked in teams right now. Let's call it there. So like, is it becoming harder to stack the upper echelons on good teams in these contests than in years past because there's such outliers?
If you pull up ADP, I mean, so there's
Yeah.
only 6 teams per lobby.
Mhm.
Basically, you'll find yourself fighting for Colorado with a lot
Yeah.
of people because
Not
McKinnon and
that
McCarr.
Oh, that's today's slate.
Oh yeah, that's today's.
I was like, Brady's 5.
But you still see McKinnon, McCarr go in the first round, as do McDavid and Draisaitl. So like
Right.
there is some element of it's tough to stack those teams just because in general you're going to find two teams are trying to take that lane. But I would say in general it's not too hard to stack whatever team you want. If you want to have 150 X of teams, if you want to have 150 Floridas, by all means go for it. You could take 150 Colorados. You might not have McKinnon on all of them, but you'll likely have a McCarr, or you'll definitely have a Nachos, Nichushkin type deal. So I wouldn't say it matters that much. So I think you would need to draft 150 times to really get a feel for like, oh, I'm taking a bunch of this specific combination. But my sense is that as long as you're being somewhat like opportunistic as far as, hey, I'm going to reach ADP wise to grab, the LA Kings or the Tampa Bay Lightning or something like that, where you're taking, overstacks of a multitude of teams and not just the top 3 teams in each conference, then you're probably going to wind up okay as far as like combinatorially speaking.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. No, well put there. All right, let's put on our dunce caps and let's get the hashtag takes going here, guys. Let's get that's what the people truly want. I want to know, some of the most mispriced teams right now, some of the teams that, let's start with teams that pair well together versus teams that are tough to pair together right now. Just kind of macro thoughts on that.
I would say Washington is.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. I literally have my dunce hat on. So I thought he was talking to me. That's my bad. Matt, please continue.
I would say Washington is a very clear team where if you get, the Colorado Edmontons, you're probably missing on Reinhart, you're missing on Matthews. Maybe you get a Matthews, but Washington, Ovi's going to be there for you. If they advance or anything, like he's going to do the scoring. They have multiple center options. They have multiple defense options, and they have Tom Wilson. So you can pretty easily stack with them. I'm not totally pot committed to like which team I think is going to win the cup. Like I'm so much in daily mode that I kind of have to remind myself like, oh, well, the Toronto's not the worst team in the world because they've been sliding in DFS, for a couple weeks now, that sort of deal. But yeah, DJ, feel free to weigh in with your dunce takes.
I mean, let's start with what's most important here. We have 3 matchups that are trending towards mortal locks. I'm not going to say mortal locks on all of them. One of them is, it feels like there's just no way Carolina's not playing the Devils at this point. Neither team are catching Carolina would need to get to 12 points. And even though the Devils are just losing every night because they're out of good players, unfortunately, I don't think that anybody in their division, being the Islanders, who are down, 7 points, are actually going to get there. So that's probably happening. The other 2 are Dallas and Colorado. That's getting closer to your 80-90% likely.
That's
Dallas.
The Rantanen stuff with that one is fun. That's a fun little narrative.
I know
that's going to be a great series.
About going full heel turn myself. And it seems like Mikko Rantanen could have gone full heel turn here and gone to the other side, if you will. That's going to be one of the more watched series. Every single year, it feels like Groundhog's Day. The Kings are playing the Oilers. Yeah. That's also trending pretty heavily. The Knights are 5 points up now, and no other team in the Pacific is even trying to claw their way back into the playoffs. Like, we're probably getting 2 Central teams that are going to mix in on either side. So those are the 3 that are coming together. I would say many people, you're looking at maybe 50, 60, 70% likely on the kind of Toronto, Tampa situation, but Matt, I'll stop there.
And by the way, what that means is don't draft those two pairs of teams
Yeah.
together. Don't draft Carolina with New Jersey, so on and so forth. So
that, that's the reason to say it is that's the most important part of this is don't be drafting them together. And if you want now to put your dunce hat on and say, what teams am I going to be? Well, if I could overdrafting, I would say I would be on Toronto. I really think that they're actually an incredibly good team and that people just convince themselves that they're not every single year and that they're going to lose every year. And then they do. But you know what? I am going to keep my dunce hat on and I'm going to say that they're actually going to figure it out this year and they're not gutless losers. And I'm not going to say they're going to win the cup because I already bet Dallas to win the cup. But I do think that's the thing. I also think if you're going to pick one upset, I think it's Minnesota to take out Vegas. I really, really believe in this Minnesota team. It's starting to, I'm not sure if I want to get concerned yet. I felt like it was just this never ending, like Kaprizov is getting close. He's working off the ice. He's actually very close. But the fact that it just continues to be, well, he's working off the ice. He's getting ready. He's running around. Oh, can he go on the ice? Can he skate? Like running out of time here. Let's get him out there. So I am starting to feel a little bit, but his stock has fallen. And again, you talked about this upper echelon of guys. If you take them by point per game, Kaprizov is right there with the top 3 or 4. So I really do think that like that's the round 1 matchup to get crazy on. If you miss on Vegas and you're thinking, oh man, like I missed on Vegas, I obviously missed on the Oilers. I guess that's a good build is to go LA. I wouldn't mind going Minnesota either, honestly. Let the Kings and Oilers beat the crap out of each other. Let's see a 7-game series where Kaprizov nukes everybody. He's going right at the end. I mean, he goes undrafted sometimes. You could get a really unique team. So I think that's my dunce hat on take of the night. And their goaltender steals games. Like Gustafsson has been awesome this year. Matt, how stupid am I?
Fine. I kind of, Kaprizov's going to be skating next week. Sure. Like, I guess if he's going to play, it has to be soon. But I do wonder if he's going to be at full strength. I have trouble also like stacking Minnesota. They feel like the perfect mini stack team, but like their defensemen are kind of a mess for fantasy. Eriksson Ek, I'm not sure what his status will be either and his availability. So like it's a bit less clean than some other teams later on.
If you're drafting and you get absolutely cranked at goalie, like you drafted like Minnesota, abandoned ship, Kaprizov, Boldly, Gustafsson, you're back in action. You got a 3-man sack to go against another 6 on the other side or whatever. You actually have a team now. I think that's maybe where they actually fall in line with the chance to win. Even the team that won the cup last year, I had 3 players on that team. So it can definitely get back in action.
Okay, cool. No, I like that one. Good show from you guys there. Do you guys think they do come playoff time go back to that line that worked so well for them last year with the Boldy, Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, if like all 3 are healthy?
The way Marco Rossi's played, I don't think they want to do that. Like I feel like that's more of their break in case of emergency glass option. But it depends on the health of these guys. If Kaprizov's banged up and Eriksson Ek's banged up, maybe they just say, "Hey, Matt Boldy, take these guys for a ride," and we'll let the bottom 3 lines do the defensive work. Like I don't really know. It's all like it all is a little too uncertain for me to really be all in on Minnesota. But I do feel like I am a GA here in the chat sort of guy. When it comes to slappiness with Minnesota, because I love Matt Boldy, have for years. And Kaprizov was like my 4th off the board pick this year, and it looked great until he got hurt. So
let's. I got 2 last questions, and then we'll hop in here, guys. I have to ask the selfish question: can we do a little Elias plus Thatcher plus Quinn Hughes to end it off here as the cheeky West upset over the Jets there? Reminder, they beat the brakes off them last week at home there.
Every donation can be written off on your taxes, I believe. So I think that's probably not the worst way to, and it's good for account health to normally show that. No, I mean, the thing is the reality is I'm such a Canucks guy going into this year. Like I really did think they were going to be fine. And it's gone to quite a weird level. I don't think Quinn Hughes is 100%. And even at 80 or 90 or whatever he is the best defenseman in the league other than Cale Makar. It's unbelievable to watch him play. And
He's the best. He's the best. Cale Makar is not. He's on a different planet this year. I'm sorry.
Man, so he played like 31 minutes last night, and I swear the last, like, when they were down 3-2 with like 4 minutes left and overtime, I think he probably took a combined like minute 10 off in the last 10 minutes, including overtime. Like, it was nuts.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, like that's the only path, and I feel like, God, there's one thing that I could, I'm not sure if it's the only gift I could give to a player to get back to full health. Like Demko, it just feels like it's like potentially over, and I just can't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I love watching that guy play. It's either over or he's just never going to be the same, and it's just devastating. There's no other way to put it. Lankinen has played awesome, but everything that I've heard is like, man, Demko is fighting, but he just might never be the same goalie, which is just terrible.
He made a ridiculous save last night, but you're right. He doesn't look like he was like 2-3 years ago for that bubble series versus the Sabres and stuff.
And full disclosure, I will be bag protecting my 7-1 St. Louis Blues to make the playoffs bet from a couple months ago, because now it's even money. So, while it would be fun to see Quinn Hughes,
they listened to Gloria again or what?
I don't know, man. Jim Montgomery just found something with this team. They're nails defensively, just locked down every night.
Again, I talk about it every podcast. I'm like, remember when every person said the Blues couldn't defend, and they're like top 5 in the league defensively now? It's silly, but yeah, I mean, Holloway got away from Edmonton. He's lighting it up. Kyrou is the obvious guy that you'd want to take here, but are they going to go into Winnipeg? It feels really tough. Like, that might be the worst matchup for them. But like another decent defensive team with the best goalie in the world by a decent margin that can score without much volume. Like, they don't need the volume to just find success. Like, I don't know, Matt, you want to say anything else, or do you just want to get into the draft and
Gabe Velarde, week to week? There's an opening. There's an opening for anyone taking on Winnipeg.
Oh man,
I follow.
Let's do it, guys. Let's hop in here. Let's see what it looks like on the fly. I gotta ask you guys: are there any like glaring landmines in terms of like ADP? Like, like obviously, like there's some dudes who are banged up and stuff, but we're all expecting the vast majority of dudes with ADPs here to be good to go.
Matt, you got anything there? Or I could say something.
Yeah, I was trying to join the draft, but apparently I missed out. So I got the unknown error. It's a shame.
I got a different error myself.
So Edmonton does have a couple injuries right now to McDavid and Draisaitl. They should be back by next week, but that's a little dicey. Like, if one of them is like a groin or something, I don't think it's a reason to knock them down, but it does make it pretty clear to me that McKinnon's the 101, which is funny because, they're up against the number 1 team in the league to win the cup in Dallas come round 1 of the playoffs. But like, I don't really see another path to another player being, the 101 here. So down the board, I think we've been pretty clean. It's mostly Islanders or guys who should be back before game 1. There's like a Miro Heiskanen
being one of them, right?
Yep. Yeah. I would say Matthew Tkachuk is pretty likely to play on game 1. Not 100% because nothing's 100%, but and if we're getting to Miro Heiskanen or Dougie Hamilton, like I don't think those are important enough to really shape ADP or anything.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're always drafting like you're right, So if you're getting into a scenario where you're like, especially at the top, it's really hard for me to find a player that I'm like, well, that guy couldn't possibly be the most useful player on their team if they win the cup. So, Matt, I'll let you go run with this one. This is your bread and butter, McDavid or Draisaitl.
I'm a Draisaitl slappy now. He's my MVP. Wow. So take Leon.
Wow. All right.
He's just been better this year. It's remarkable. It is astounding.
101 points, 68 games, almost 50 snipes. He's got 49 snipes.
And just the on-ice play too, territorially, it is levels above Connor McDavid. It is astounding. For years it's been, Draisaitl goes to McDavid when he needs to play good defensively. All of a sudden, Draisaitl's showing up day in and day out. So I'm hoping, their injuries not a factor, but Draisaitl is my guy here.
All right. Cool.
Can't argue with it, to be honest. But both of them injured, but both of them I would expect to be back. It sounds like Leon, hopefully by the weekend. So we'll see.
Sounds good, boys. All right, we're gonna be fighting Chris here for Edmonton. He takes Bouchard there. So what's our course of action now?
DJ, pick an East team. Are you going Toronto? Are you going Florida?
I go Toronto.
Okay.
But it's up to you. You want to go Toronto or Florida? It's up to you.
No, Toronto.
I want to go Toronto. Yeah.
Austin Matthews is. I'm not going to say the best player in the league as of late, but he is certainly back to normal, it feels like. And that is a very dangerous thing to have in it. Again, you can say whatever you want about Toronto in the past, but they're at full health. They are actually very good defensively. They have, Tanev and some of those guys that might not seem to matter much, but they do in the playoffs. It just is a fact. So I'm pretty high on them to get through the first couple of rounds against a Tampa team that I really just don't think is all that deep. And I really don't believe in Vasilevsky as like the biggest difference maker in the world.
Okay, guys. So we know that Chris is doing Edmonton beside us. We have a piece of Edmonton and Toronto. Should we be thinking about pushing up goaltending? Should we just take Nylander for the stack here? Should we prioritize Edmonton over Toronto?
I would say we can give Chris Skinner if he wants it. Take Nylander.
Okay.
Take Marner. There'll be defensive options, and you can get Joseph Wall or Stolarz later, or you can get a different goalie if you decide to build out a 6-stack of a different team. Because honestly, if you don't get Evan Bouchard, I kind of struggle with the idea of going all in on Edmonton, just because it feels so likely that he dominates the defensive picture, barring injury, of course, scoring wise. That it's Victor Arvidsson versus Jeff Skinner versus Zach Hyman really going to shape your fantasy playoff experience. I don't know. It's a little dicey to me. So take the points of Leon, maybe just cut bait on Edmonton if you don't get Evan Bouchard is kind of my general lead.
Yeah. Is this, did someone, maybe I didn't know, is this supposed to be the fastest NHL draft ever? I wasn't aware. It feels like everyone's picking in 2 seconds. I mean, my opinion here is both, because it's not like you can't just take 2 or 3 Edmonton guys.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think you're gonna. I mean, is anybody gonna take Marner from you? I kind of feel like the answer is no. So
I don't think so.
I don't think it. Yeah, I think you're probably safe here at the turn to grab and this is really the build you want, in my opinion, is to just have 2 centers that, in the grand scheme of things, can score 1.4 million goals combined, and probably 2 guys that, even if you think like these are the perfect correlated pieces, they just happen to be, well, Nylander's like a 100-point upside player, and Hyman can score in tight and definitely get peak weeks.
Love it. When we're thinking about the goaltending situation, and because this is probably going to be 6 on the Toronto side, 3 on the Edmonton side, and then 3 of another team kind of deal.
That feels about right.
Okay.
The only thing I would posit is that it might be difficult with Toronto because we're just not sure who their game 1 starter is in net. Like, it feels like Joseph Wall is the guy they want, but Stolarz has just been better. And so it's a matter of, what the coaching staff decides to do. And that's where these drafts are kind of not impossible, but it's like, if you're doing 150, sure, you just take some Stolarz and some Joey Wall, but you feel like a giant idiot when you draft a perfect team and you're holding a backup goalie. So
yeah, I love the Islanders last year.
Yeah, exactly. My lean is Wall, but ideally you don't get sniped on anyone. We can make that decision later on. But there's the possibility, of course, to go in on a team like LA or something and just go super crazy 6-stack. Obviously not in this draft. Maybe for this draft it'd be Carolina or New Jersey or something. But I think we sort of just stay on the track of Toronto.
Okay. So who's our favorite? I mean, because we got the Nuge here too. If we wanted to do like our third piece there, we could attack center again. Tavares there. Is there someone else you guys prefer on Toronto?
DJ, you make the pick here.
I mean, I would just take the Nuge and be done with Edmonton at this point. I mean, it's
Okay.
I don't think you're fighting anybody right now. I think my question is, do you take Logan Thompson? The other side of the East, is there another goalie that's going to make a lot of sense here? Hellebuck's gone, Ottinger's gone, Blackwood's gone, so you're not going to get a central goalie. The Wild, as I mentioned, are going to sneak into the Pacific, so you're kind of looking at a situation where
DJ, this does feel like a team where something like Logan Thompson and John Carlson or Jake Chychrun makes sense, because we're going to be struggling on defense. Morgan Riley's not likely to be power play one. Matthias Ekholm, Darnell Nurse, Jake Wallman are all options. I would prefer Ekholm of the bunch in Edmonton, but again, I sort of stand by they're going to get some points, but Evan Bouchard probably just dominates them.
So we go into Tavares here.
Thompson, or you're not him? Oh, okay.
Okay. Sure. Thompson makes sense.
Did you get him? I don't know.
Have faith, boys.
Oh man.
Because I was going to say, I feel like you're really screwed at goalie if you don't get Logan Thompson. I'm going to be honest.
That was true.
You may legitimately have a winning team that doesn't have a game one starting goalie, and that or a goalie that's I don't know. Yeah.
Yes. So the options here are basically, I think the 6 of Toronto is almost indisputable. You add on a Matthew Nyes later, and you dip down to a Morgan Riley or something defensively. I mean, then it's sort of, do you go 4 Edmonton or do you go 3 of Edmonton and then use another spot to get a star in a different team or on Washington?
There's other Washington pieces still on the board. I mean, there's Dubois, who's been awesome. Like, you just don't stack the Rovi, stack the other way. Say Dubois gets there and take Chychrun. I mean, Chychrun was unbelievable. They signed him for $9 million. I don't know.
Chychrun's a good option for sure. I would take JT.
Yeah, JT and Chychrun is, I think, my preferred. Just 6-3-3 is right there for you with a 1 seed, a potentially 2 or 3 seed, and then a 2 seed. You're looking at a very obvious potential to get through. And then and there's just so many options on Washington. You got Protoss, you got McMichael, the better McDavid, the better Connor Mick, as I call him.
He is popping every single day when I look at the daily face-off stuff.
He's just good at hockey.
They just love him every single day. All right. So is this going to be Chychrun for us then?
Yeah.
We need a blue liner here.
Yeah,
and is Toronto our favorite? So I think Toronto's really easy to stack right now. Is there any merit in getting a contrarian blue line piece and just being like, it's OEL or it's McCabe or whatever instead of Morgan Riley?
It's fine. I would say OEL is your guy, but I have no idea, I guess is the real answer.
Sure, yeah.
Morgan Riley is just a dude. And if he's not top power play, he's just as much of just a dude as OEL. So I would be fine with that if you're on board.
Because they've been doing the 5 forwards thing on PP1, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you better get ready to learn.
Old puck guy paying attention out here, man. Old puck guy's paying attention.
Oh boy, Z-Dog took Joey Wall. Okay.
Yeah, I guess you're a Stolars guy now. That's congratulations to you.
All right.
We
can wait.
Yeah. You don't need to do that, but
who do you guys like? Protoss.
I think Dubois is your option. He's power play 1 at the moment. You don't need to get too crazy.
Okay.
I think it's just not even really that much of a question. I definitely think you want to this could be the scenario where you have about 2 picks left.
Yep.
Yeah. So we need 2 Toronto pieces, goalie and D, basically. Right?
It's got to be Riley.
You
right?
could. Yeah. So. Yes. Goalie plus defenseman, Toronto, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's Riley Stolars. I mean, again, it's one of those. think about the coach you got in Toronto too. You got this old guy who just is like, I'm a tough guy. I'm old and I'm tough. And Stolarz is playing better, so he's starting tonight. Doesn't matter what anyone. I don't care about your feelings. You're fine.
Yeah,
Stolarz has been
I
really
like
good.
where you're at here.
He's healthy. I think it's honestly, that is the hardest part about Toronto is saying who's starting in net. What are we looking at here? Yeah, Stolarz is a .918 save percentage goalie. Just ridiculous.
All right, this team is dead if we don't get Stolarz, and we don't
I
really
agree.
care what defenseman we're gonna get. So may as well take him first.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I
mean,
Morgan Riley or OEL. If both of them go, I would just, I don't know, delete your YouTube channel if both of them go. There's a 0% chance.
Yeah, the chat was saying that the 6-hole Z-Dog was cooking with this Florida Peg start, and then all of a sudden just went Dallas, Carolina, Toronto.
Did somebody take his goal? I mean, you took Korchekov. I just would have taken Freddie Anderson. Who cares? Like, Korchekov is a lunatic. He's an insane person in that. They're just going to sit him for Freddie Anderson. Who cares? I don't know.
Ryan
Wouldn't
Leonard.
have taken Wolf. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna sign him. He's gonna play.
That is some no puck shit right there. Wow.
Yeah, that is. Wow. Lego My Nego has absolutely killed it with this Ryan Leonard pick. Do we want Morgan Riley or do we want OEL?
It doesn't matter. Just take OEL. Have some fun.
There we go. If it doesn't matter,
literally. Okay. Here, like underdog points per 60 minutes this season so far. Morgan Riley 15.05, Jake McCabe 15.24, OEL 14.2, and Chris Tanev 13.75. They're basically all the same player.
That's awesome.
Some of that.
So we should just always take the lower owned one.
It's whatever. Morgan Riley could be the number one guy, but if he's going to be 75% drafted versus OEL being 5% drafted, like sure, just live a little.
Yeah, I love it.
Big grand play of the night.
There we go, guys. A 4-4-2-2. We started Edmonton. We got boxed out by another Edmonton drafter, which I think is just going to be the norm so frequently, right? Like that's just going to be like, kind of feels like Colorado's the same way, where it's like you take the premier piece of your choosing and then the other side taps two guys every single time in front of you there, unless you get a little lucky for that GM start. So we pivot Toronto for our 6 stack, and then we got 3 on the Edmonton side and then 3 on the Washington side. So we're playing Washington versus Toronto Eastern Conference Final, which, depending on the bracket, the way it sets up, I don't know if that's possible. Is it possible for sure?
Yep. If they play each other, that has to be the matchup. Toronto's not falling to a wild card spot.
Perfect. Yep. Okay, cool. So they would have to. All right, cool. That's a pretty competent team. I boxed out at goalie.
I should ask. I don't know the answer to this. Does the NBA reseed between rounds, or is the bracket set once it starts?
Oh, it's like the lowest seed will always stay the lowest seed.
Okay,
it's not like a divisional thing.
Okay, so the bracket can shift basically around. Like it's not like the March Madness bracket where you'll get 11. Okay, so the NHL, I should mention, is a set strict bracket. There are 4 teams per pod. Those 4 teams will play each other. It's the top 3 in each division, on each side of the conference. And then the 2 wildcard spots, the worst performing regular season team, 1 seed, gets the worst or the best wild card. So it's those 4 teams will always play each other. And so in this case, Washington and Toronto are in different brackets. Neither of them are wild cards, so they're not going to cross over divisions at all.
Right.
That's why this is a perfectly reasonable build, and why it's you don't really want to take Florida on this team, for example, with Toronto, because they'll play each other in round 2, if not round 1.
Yeah, perfectly articulated. Guys, you got time for one more, or should we call it after that one?
It's up to you.
One more for me. I'm in. I can never do it on my own, so this is my big chance to draft teams.
Let's do it.
Let's see if I can make it in this time.
Please don't. Yes, Bull.
I
Yes.
think I did.
Oh, I believe
here I am.
Ah, there you go. Oh my goodness. This is a gauntlet here. Blake's in here. You're in here. Count,
bad.
aka the champion from last year, is in here.
We're gonna have to dip into our bag of tricks to win this round one. That's for damn sure.
We probably got
Oh.
about an eighth of the teams in the finals for Best Ball Classic in here, and 2 of the drafters are not involved. So interesting how that works sometimes. This is a sicko lobby. Yeah, no. I was trying to see if I could get this belt to actually work. I think it's made for children, though. I don't really know much about the WWE, which I think makes this even funnier. Like, I just had to get a costume for a brewery drinking event. And what was I gonna be for WWE other than John Cena?
All right, guys, we got like 215 of us hanging out. If you guys are on the X side, come on over to YouTube side, sub to the Badge Bros, sub to the Morningscape pod, sub to DJ Mitchell's channel on YouTube as well, where they do the puck breakdowns. Yeah, come on over, enjoy. Waters are warm in the puck streets here. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, notification bell. Guys, I'm deviating here. Moods is doing this Edmonton thing. We're going Dallas here. We're going Dallas.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
We're going Dallas here.
My preseason cup pick.
All right, let's do it.
12-1, I believe. $100 on the Stars.
Yeah, John, we're gonna need your Miro Heiskanen take. He should be back mid round 1 or so, maybe not till round 2. Is Thomas Harley the defensive play? The Harley go Burr, or will Miro come back and take back his 30-minute a night job?
So during the Four Nations, I thought everyone was like, they thought Harley played really well. I was on the other side of the spectrum. I thought he played poorly.
Oh, yeah. we gotta get DJ. I gotta go. You're finished up here.
I was not about it.
Here.
I think he's a really good defenseman. I think he's fine from the Dallas standpoint, but I'm not gonna lie. When I was screaming at the TV in the Four Nations, I thought he played pretty bad, and everybody else thought he played really well as a fill-in. I wasn't really about it then, but I'm willing to capitulate in this tournament if we're getting a little bit of leverage and we're guaranteeing ourselves a couple extra games.
I was gonna say, if you sick freaks let Count MC get McCarr McKinnon, I'm gonna jump into a vat of acid. Yes, thank God. I thought it was gonna happen. I was sitting there just like, oh my God, he's gonna get away with it again. Thank you.
Okay, so this is interesting there. Moods, you're building out 2 teams from the West, so you're not worried about this off the start because you know there's some backstack East teams that you like?
Yep, I think so. The main thought was, how often is Draisaitl, Kyle Connor really going to be paired? I don't think all that often, in all honesty, the way I've seen boards fall, where normally the Hellebuck drafter just takes Kyle Connor. So I feel pretty good about some later round East teams that I just want to stack up. So that feels like the perfect opportunity to, build across, get like a, Winnipeg maybe stack with a couple, maybe an Edmonton piece or 2, and then just go in on that one East team, whatever pops up.
Cool. I like it. So only East teams right now. We've got, Cooch is out. We got a Florida stack starting for Blake.
Well, they pushed me Austin Matthews. So
yeah, I was gonna say. I will say one thing on the Dallas. I mean, again, love the team. Nothing but respect for my boys down south, but they do have kind of a tricky, obviously you want to probably take Ottinger here. You don't want to miss out on it. So I wouldn't really worry about the pick, but I would go for some upside pieces around it. Like this is it's up to you, I guess, but I think someone could, I just worry that you could get screwed on Ottinger, and that's probably much worse.
Okay.
But you need to get upside in a roster with Dallas. They have 3 lines that go up and down, and I thinking that it's all going to come through the same sort of top unit or whatever. It feels a little bit thin to me. I wouldn't mind taking a breather chuck on this team with Dallas, or a player that has a ton of scoring upside in this system.
Okay.
Or Novi.
Yeah, that checks out because, Dallas is pretty balanced. Like these guys obviously don't play together. Do they play PP1 together? They do, right?
Right now it's Hintz
Robertson and Nico?
Robertson. Yeah, they're together full time right now, 5-5
Oh,
power
okay.
play, with Hintz
All
at the
right.
center. Could change, of course. They've had Wyatt Johnston kind of in that mix as well. But definitely on the power play.
Taking the eighth best forward is a choice.
Oh, all right. Well, no Ovi. So
Yeah, so we get sniped on Ovi there. What should our plan in the East be? Should we start doing like a Toronto, like a Nylander here?
it's an option. Yeah. God, I don't know if
Or
you
we
can
can keep
overstack
going
Dallas.
Dallas.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you
Let's
can just
overstack
overstack
Dallas.
Dallas and not really worry about it, right? Like whatever 3 falls in line. There's, I mean, again, like even a Florida like last year, it was none of the top dogs, and Brad Marchand is on that team. He should be ready for the playoffs. I would be shocked if he's not there game 1. Like, what if you took Marchand and Bennett and played the bad boy line, if you will?
Sure, yeah, we could do like auxiliary Florida. Nobody's taken a piece from Carolina yet. Do we like Carolina? I know the hashtag models from a fantasy standpoint always like Carolina, right?
I would do that actually. I mean, they're right now projected on Moneybuck to win the cup. Like that is the top team. It's I mean, you could even I honestly it's kind of hard. It's Aho. I don't think it's even that close. Aho, Jarvis are a bit above the rest, and then Svechnikov not probably in tonight, but skated in practice today, and they really think he'll be back by like next game. So not a concern other than just he might be just a little bit more rested than most. So those are the 3. After that, I don't know. Are you Jackson Blaking it? Are you that's kind of the problem with Carolina is like there's a clear 2, 3, and then it's scroll the app down Jackson Blake.
Okay. Is Slavin hurt?
No,
he just doesn't have a fantasy appealing upside.
He just doesn't do anything for fantasy.
Yeah, ever. He just blocks shots. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, and not enough to really get you all the way home. I mean, and Toronto's on the other side. Like, there's a chance here you're going to get Nylander and definitely Marner back to you. Like, I mean, you could build. You could definitely build here, like a little bit of an Eastern Conference against Dallas. Like, I don't hate that idea at all. I know Matt's probably sitting there like, shut the hell up. I have Austin Matthews, but unfortunately, I have no dog in the fight there.
Let's do it.
My options are still wide open. I am though, because I could still from here go 6 stack of a different East team and get that across the finish line, but I'm not going to. I feel good enough about pairing Marner with. I'm just gonna grab Wold now, obviously unless Count decides to take him, so that I can sort of dip around in some Toronto depth pieces waters. But I was considering, going full on psycho mode with, a New Jersey stack, or Ottawa is probably going to wind up. Actually, Ottawa is probably winding up in the Toronto bracket. So I guess that's not as solid.
Yeah, I think this could be a team, John, that you only take 1 goalie on if you do go 6 Dallas. I mean, if you're going 6 Dallas, Matt, what do you think about that take?
We lost some of our good Dallas. Like we lost Rupe, we lost Thomas Harley.
I don't worry that much. I mean, I'm a little bit more upset about Harley, but you could just grab Duchesne.
I would take 1 goalie with Miro, because I mean you're basically saying they win round 1. Okay, now I have a full power team, and you're saying okay, Miro, like maybe you take a third defenseman for that particular team given your injury situation.
Yeah, I just really think that Matt Duchesne is a bit undervalued at that price. Like if you look at the power play, kind of puck flowing through and getting points through the power play, Matt Duchesne's been really, really useful. I mean, I wouldn't have Jarvis here, but
they do split their units. Dallas does. So you're not talking about Edmonton where it's 95% of the time going to be McDavid's unit getting a goal. Like now with Rantanen, it's probably, closer to 2/3, 1/3, but you're still talking 60-40, like, on average as far as how the units fare. And Duchesne and that second unit have been lights out for multiple years now. Tyler Seguin should be back as well come playoffs. So that line at 5-on-5, it's basically like a full-time power play if Tyler Seguin's anywhere close to the way he was, the last year and a half.
Right. Yeah.
I think this is a one goalie team. You get one or two more Dallas pieces to get you what you're at 4 right now. No, 3.
3 question mark. Yeah, 3 pieces right now.
3. Okay. Yeah. I mean, 6 isn't gospel, right? Even 5 is fine, probably. I don't know. I mean, Dallas has a plethora of options. I mean, I think Roope Hintz would have been preferred just because of the stacking component, but Roope Hintz, they just decided it's Duchesne but you have Johnston. Yeah, you have 3. Now there goes Duchesne.
Yeah.
Never mind the Duchesne of it all.
We gave too strong a take there. Sorry, John.
It's all good.
That was a trap. I actually.
Yeah.
So
we tricked you.
We could, man. We got 4 Dallas right now, including 10. I think we got to keep going the Dallas route.
Grab Miro. I think that's fine, and then see what comes back. I mean, there's enough upside here to make you feel something, but I just think that this team is like the most cromulent version of a team that just needs a little bit more kick. And I think Nylander gives it at least some semblance of that. But again, like I just feel like these are 2 teams that don't want to get into boat races in Dallas and Carolina. They're 2 teams that could win the cup though. So how do you look at these 2 teams that are both right? Go to Money Puck, who's not looking at I'm not just use my bias garbage, like 21.1% Carolina. Technically now they're second to Winnipeg and 16.3 cup to make the cup final in these 2 teams, right? Like 2 of the higher echelon teams. How do you get them there though? How do you get to that cup final that is well within that's where I think maybe you don't have to go off the reservation, but taking a Nylander definitely makes sense. And maybe if there's one more upper, high upside guy, but
Marchment
over that. I almost lean Seguin, honestly. I mean, he's going to be back. I think he has more upside. I'd probably go Seguin, and then there's 3 more picks? 10, 11, 3 more picks, and you definitely want to be a defenseman. Burns and Gostisbehere are easy picks there. God, I mean,
and then 1 Toronto piece, or just use Nylander as a one-off.
I honestly don't hate the idea of like a Kempe or a Fiala on the other side, against, on the other side of Daly of one of each, and just more upside in those pieces. Tavares is gone, I believe. They're the only other guy I took about.
Yeah, I took Tavares.
Yeah, so Tavares, I might have fucked up right here by taking Miro first. I could have taken Tavares, and then I thought about it after, and I was like, oh, I probably messed that up.
I think the only issue is maybe you really kind of want one more center here, and
there's not many. When building out Dallas, it's like
we're the
Langford and Hintz. That's it.
So
Duchesne too.
Yeah. I let's see. Am I? Yeah, you are up before me. Bobby McMahon is going to be playing with Nylander probably at 5-on-5. I had that one queued up, but I'm happy as a friend of the show to say if you want a Toronto piece, Bobby McMahon is a dude. He's close to a better Mick. He's a pretty good player. He's not guaranteed to be in the top 6, but that third line is also pretty solid offensively with Max Domi. So ideally Scott Lawton isn't there as a black hole come playoff time, but I would be okay with McMahon if you needed a full on punt Toronto piece. So I will. You didn't take him, so
I was confused as well.
I'm debating taking him.
I feel like that was like I'm going to take him if you don't.
I thought we were on the other side of the board, to be honest.
I was kind of just like sitting there waiting for you to move him, and I was like,
"Son of a bitch! You're really gonna make me be an asshole now by saying you can take him."
It's up to you, Matt. You want to be the worst person ever or not? It's your choice. It's no one. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, loyalty and respect are on my wristband for a reason, so I know what I would do. But
I'm just gonna take
centers?
Darnell Nurse here. I'm just gonna take Darnell Nurse. Be a total slappy with Draisaitl. John, if you want McMahon, he's all yours. I'm happy taking.
Thank you.
I'm happy
I
taking.
think we need another center, right? Like,
yeah, I would do it. Yeah, I mean, and
yeah,
like McMahon can have that hat trick game. Like that is in his range of outcomes. He's a goal scorer first. Like the upsides there that I think you want, and then man, it's so hard not to take Svechnikov here and just say you have a, what would that be, a 4-5-2? Is that what we're looking at? Am I missing something?
Dallas 1, 2, 3,
5,
4, 5.
5.
And then the other one, 1, 2, 3 on Carolina,
So
and then
you take
2 on Toronto.
You take Svechnikov and you're, a 5-4-2. There's no perfect roster build. Kind of what comes to you, and I think taking Svechnikov makes the most sense. I don't think there just aren't many scenarios where I think where Chekhov is outscoring Ottinger when you have 5 stars and you're feeling really good about it. And like I said, I really think they're going to end up just game 1. You're going to see Freddie Anderson skating, knocking the pucks off, and you're just going to say, "Oh my God, of course they did that. Why did I not do that?" So
this is
yeah. I would also consider taking a one-off defenseman, like a Jacob Chikrin, just someone who's going to pile up. Ekblad, I think, is an option. Like just someone who's going to pile up points in that first round to help you get out of it. Because once Miro's back, he's better than his ADP. Like he's going to play a ton of minutes, barring something unexpected happening. So that feels to me like Gostisbehere's a little bit weak. So like that's the one situation where I would consider going a third defenseman.
There's a 17.3% chance that the best defenseman in the world could be on your team as well, and Quinn Hughes. How brave are you?
Oh shit!
He's on one of my teams. He's on one of my teams.
If we're going punt defenseman, don't tempt me with a good time here, boys. Don't tempt me with a good time.
I have a Quinn Hughes team. I have one. I'm
DJ absolute cinema here on the Batch Bros, bringing the heat.
If we're gonna tempt me with a one-off defenseman here, give me the guy who's gonna play 30 minutes a night if he sneaks in.
Oh my God! Like imagine
the
scenario
to the podium.
That's where I hand the belt over. There you go.
Oh man. Oh.
Yeah, that could be the best pick ever, or you're gonna look back at this team and be like, did I really let a floating head?
Oh man, that was a tough room. Everybody, you stayed in your lanes, but you were still competing for some chalky teams because a lot of teams were building the same teams. So it was like pretty combative, where it was like Dallas was getting sniped from you on one side, Toronto's getting sniped on the other. We had to scroll all the way down to Bobby McMahon and Quinn Hughes. Holy shit.
No, I know. Nobody took Minnesota again, too. I mean, it's just every night.
The disrespect.
And when Kirill Kaprizov goes for 45 points in the first round of the playoffs, I'll be laughing with my 2 shares of my 3 drafts I did before my state banned me. I actually might only have 1 share, but I don't know. I'm just so angry at this point. Doesn't matter.
Oh man. That was fun, guys. Appreciate you guys doing this. Appreciate you coming on. 250 of us still hanging out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, notification bell, all that fun stuff. Make sure you guys check out the link that is pinned both below and in the chat. The Zamboni manifesto there. Some great alpha with the S words. Yep. Ran the S words in there. Any parting words for the people? Any plugs, guys? What you got for me?
At NHL DJ on YouTube, we streamed a few Zamboni drafts over the weekend on Saturday. If you're really itching for some hockey content, of course, the Morning Skate podcast. There's a big Tuesday slate, just about the puck drop in 30 minutes here. So I think we missed the underdog drafts, or if that's not full, get in those lobbies for the dailies. But yeah, also check out the puck thread there is a puck thread. I believe Turbotron here found out that there was a puck thread of the Badge Bros just recently. So if there's any other puck guys out there, there is a thread similar to that for NBA and baseball. So do go check that out. And that's where you can find me most easily. If you have questions about the manifesto or anything else, questions wise, I'll try my best to answer. Might not have the answers, but a good place to hang out and a lot of sharp people in there as well.
Love it. I am putting that in the chat. So if you guys want to just pop on over to that right after this one, there is their previous Zamboni stream from the weekend.
Yep, because it doesn't matter if I can draft or not. I'm the man to beat. Doesn't matter what the jabronis are saying out there.
Jabronis.
Want some? Come get some. Hustle, loyalty, respect. My time is now. I will see you hopefully very soon back in the drafting streets over at Underdog. I'm going to call my legislation right after I hang up and tell them that they're jabronis.
Oh, man. All right. Appreciate you guys so much. Always fun to do a puck stream. Always fun to have the alpha from you guys. Back tomorrow with Mike Zakarian, 2 p.m. Eastern, full unabated breakdown of the NBA slate. And then I will draft a dinger after. Hopefully I can get a couple more in here. I think I'm 26 dingers away. I did my solo shot this afternoon, like I promised, so I could share that team with everybody tomorrow as well. Outside of that, make sure you guys are following Morning Skate Pod and NHL DJ for all their strategy stuff, all their slate breakdowns, and that Zamboni video that's now in the chat. All right, everybody's favorite time of the show, the end. Peace. Thank you guys.